guys, I'm back, and today is totally summer. Today is really totally summer in Korea here, and it's 32 degrees or 40, so I'm not going to talk about the weather. I'm going to read. Okay, so let's get started. Geronimo, Stilton, Cat and Mouse, and a haunted house. Maybe there's going to be a witch or a ghost, zombies, all kind of things that are scary and ready for the Halloweens. It was a foggy October night. Oh, how I wished I was home in my comfy mouse hole. It was the perfect night to curl up with a good book and a cup of hot cheddar. But I wasn't at home. I wish I could say I was bowling down at Lucky Pauline's or nibbling on a delicious dinner at my favorite French restaurant, Lee Sickery. But I was far away from every mouse I knew. I was stuck in the middle of the dark forest. Do you want to know why? Let me tell you. Oh, first, let me introduce myself. My name is Stilton, Geronimo Stilton. I live in a new mouse city where I run a newspaper. Yes, that's right. I am a newspaper mouse. I publish a paper called the Rodent Gazelle. It is the most popular paper on Mouse Island. Our only competition is the Daily Rat, but that's another story. Let's see, where was I? Oh yes, how I got to the dark forest. Well, I had left New Mouse City to go visit my aunt Sweetfur. She was on vacation in the Pleasant Paw Hills. To get there, I had to drive through the dark forest. Have you ever been there? The dark forest. It reminds me of the woods where Hansel and Gretel Mouse get lost. Very dark and spooky. I had just passed Cat's Claw Rock when a foggy cloud settles over my car. I felt like one of the three blind mice. I couldn't see my own paw in front of my snout. I tried to check out my map, but it was no use. I was lost. The road grew narrow and finally led to a dirt path. Still Swiss rolls. This didn't look good. Now I was really in the middle of nowhere. I shivered. Who knows what kind of crazy rats lived out here in the deep, dark wood? What if they jumped on my car? What if they jumped on me? With shaking paws, I tried dialing my sister, Thea. Rats! I couldn't get a signal on my cell phone. Oh, how I wished I was home. I drove on for another half hour in the thickening fog. I tried turning on my radio to get mind of things, but I couldn't get station. Instead, I listened to my teeth chattering. Then suddenly, out of the fog, a sign appeared. It read, "To Canny Cat's Castle." Too shocked to squeak. I checked my map. Strange, very strange, I thought. There was no castle listed. I folded the map and shoved it to my coat pocket. I think they didn't posted it on the map because these are rats and mouse, but to Canny Cat Castle it says, but if you just cut the eye off, there is a cat. So I think, yeah, I predict like that. I folded the map and shoved it in my coat pocket. Well, there was one only one thing to do. I headed for the castle. I would ask for directions there. Just then, a bolt of lightning struck down right next to me. For a split second, the dark forest glowed. It reminded me of the time my Uncle Flickrat turned on the lights before the movie was over at the Grand Squeak Cinema. The audience went crazy. Every mouse wanted his or her money back. After that, Uncle Flickrat got stuck working in the cheese poker machine. His boss wouldn't let him near the light switch. I blinked my eyes in the bright white light. I could just make out the shape of a weathered old castle in the distance. Right at that very moment, my car stopped. I groaned. This was not my day or night. I hopped out of the car. Now what? I knew next to nothing about cars. I have trouble pumping on my own gas. Suddenly, it started to rain. My whiskers were soon dripping with water, and it was bitterly cold. I turned up my cooler and started along the path leading to the castle. Blink, 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 blink. It was covered with dried twigs that crackled under my paws. The grass surrounding the castle looked like it hadn't been mowed in years. Overgrown bushes lined the walls. This place really needs a good lawn service, I thought. Maybe I could give the owners my cousin Grandpa's business card. He cut lawns for a living. Next to yellow, green is my favorite color, he liked to say. Starting up at the dark castle, I stumbled over more twigs. Maybe there was another reason why this place was a mess. Maybe the castle was empty. The castle with blood-red windows. Look, it's really red. It looks like blood. Its color is blood, but it doesn't look like blood. The castle was surrounded by a deep moat filled with slimy green water. I stared at the building. The walls were made of huge square stones. Windows protected by thick iron bars stared back at me. I flinched. The window panes were blood red. Just then, a light came on in the highest tower. In the darkness, it looked like the glowing eye of a terrifying monster. Oh, how I wish I was home. My fur stood on end from fright. As quickly it had turned on, the light crackled. It was then that I noticed the flag hanging from the castle's highest tower. It showed pictures in a blood-red rat. The cat's back was arched and its claws were drawn. In front of the entrance stood two cat statues. The cat's jaws were set in evil snarls. I gasped. All of these cats were beginning to give me the creeps. Was this the homeowner's way of scaring away the raft? Well, I guess it was cheaper than our alarm system. I studied the statues. One of them had a sign with instructions for the doorbell. It read, "Press your paw here if you have no fear." I looked closer. The doorbell was blood red. Shivering, I pressed the ringer. Meow! Meow! A horrifying meowing filled my ears. Terrified, I scurried behind a bush. Holy cheese, this cat must be some monster. After a while, I peeked out from my hiding place. Strange, very strange. Not a furry fish in sight. Finally, I realized the meowing was taped. It was coming from the bell. Once again, I pushed the door. It opened as if by magic. By now, I wasn't exactly dying to go in. In fact, you could say I was dying to scurry on out of there. But then a bolt of lightning practically took off my paw. Yikes! I didn't want to go inside, but I couldn't stay outside in the storm. I practiced my deep breath exercises. Then I tiptoed inside. Cursed the cheese slices. It was so dark and spooky. Oh, how I wished I was home. I'm too fond of my whiskers. Teeth chattering. I entered the dark and gloomy hall. Suddenly, another bolt of lightning struck close by. The blood-red window panes glowed like the eyes of a hungry cat. I jumped. Talk about fur-raising experience. I headed down to the dark corridor. It led to a heavy wooden door. May I come in? Anybody home? I started pushing open the door. In front of me was a huge room filled with antique furniture. Dust and cobwebs hung over the sofas like unwrapped guests of the morning after a party. Gigantic paintings of cats from after a party. From centuries long ago covered the walls. I was glad not to be living in that period. Too many cats back then. Then I noticed a velvet wall hanging from embroidered writing. It read, "This castle belongs to the most honorable Duke Big Paw Cannycat." Cannycat? That reminded me of something. I closed my eyes and pictured my precious of the encyclopedia Ratnikia. Now, what was that I read about Cannycat? Oh yes, of course. The Cannycats were leaders in Great Battle of Waterloo. It took place in 1754. Battle of the cats and rats fought covertly with paws and claws. Of course, as every mouse knows, the rodent won. Since Waterloo, there have been no cats on our island. Just then, I noticed a plaque above the fireplace. I crept closer for a look. My whiskers began to tremble as I read the writing. "Oh, you foolish newt who has made the tusk fur. For I bet you don't know how unlucky you are. Retrace your steps and head the old trail if you wish to save your miserable tail." Meow! Now I was shaking all over. I stumbled to back away and bumped onto a bookcase. A big fat book landing on my right paw. Cheese niblet. That book weighed more than a 10-ton block of cheddar. Ouch! I shrieked, hopping around like the Easter rat. Seconds later, I tripped over the carpet. I landed snout first in the fireplace. Now I was covered in ashes from head to tail. How would I explain this mess to Sturge, the cute mouse down at my dry cleaner? Sorry, that was my phone ringing. Okay, where was I? I'm going to start reading from here. I got a phone call and it was kind of forgettable about the book. Seconds later, I tripped over the carpet. I landed snout first in the fireplace. Now I was covered in ashes head to tail. How would I explain this mess that Stark, the cute mouse down at my dry cleaners? I tried to grab the edge of the fireplace, but I missed. Instead, I grabbed a doily with a heavy silver tray on it. The tray bonked on me on the head. Rotten rat's teeth. I was going to have some lump on my head. I wouldn't be able to wear a hat for weeks. Of course, I never really wear a hat. It would clash my suit and tie. But now I wouldn't have a choice. I sighed, leaning against the suit of armor standing beside the fireplace. Big mistake. The armor tumbled on the floor. Whoosh! A sharp hatchet nearly took off my snout. I'm too fond of my whiskers. I got up in a daze, trying to steady myself. Then I noticed a mirror over the fireplace. I pricked into it. The dim light. I saw a horrifying sight. A ghost with a gray snout was staring back at me. It's a mirror, dumbhead. I let down an ear-splitting squeak. Who are you? What do you want? I stammered. I turned, ready to run. The ghost turned too. I nervously turned my tail. The ghost turned its tail. I leaned forward and pointed at the ghost. It pointed back at me. Oops, I mumbled. That's no ghost. That's just me. How could I be such a nincompoop? Oh, how I wish I was home. Mouse bones and rat skeletons. I left the room and scurried down the hall. Soon I came to a wooden floor sign on it read, Kitchen. I went in. The place was huge. You could cook dinner for 100 mice in this place. There was a huge wood-burning stove, pots and pans of every size and shape, and a massive fridge. I opened the side door and found myself in the cellar. I spotted some cans of tuna fish, some dried meat, and a big block of Swiss cheese. It smelled delicious. So the castle was inhabited after all. But who won? But by whom? Who? The whom is same as who. That was still a mystery. I crept back to the wood-burning stove. A huge copper pot hung inside the fireplace. It had a picture of a snarling cat raved on it. I looked closer and noticed a strange white object lying inside the pot. I picked it up to study it. Sour cheese chunks. It was a bone, a mouse bone. I picked it up to study it. Sour cheese chunks. It was a bone, a mouse bone. I flung the bone back in the pot. Then I looked around, terrified. Who was this placer? I decided I didn't want to stick around to find out. I had to make a run for it before I ended up like that poor mouse in the pot. No fur, just bone. In a panic, I flung open the first door I saw. Behind it was a closet. I wish I could say I found a puffy chief hat, and I could say I found a puffy and matching apron in the closet. My Uncle Hot Paw wears a silly apron at our annual family barbecues. It has a picture of a smiling mouse juggling kittens on it. But there was no operation in this closet. Instead, there was the skeleton of a humongous rat. Oh, how I wish I was home. I'm scarier than most. My heart was hammering away like one of those rodents on a mouse hole improvement show. I raced out of the kitchen as fast as my paws could carry me. I guess you know by now I'm not the most courageous mouse on the block. I scurried into the castle's library. The library. It really is my favorite place to be. Being a brainy mouse, I love to surround myself with books. Old books, new books, I love them all. Just the smell of a good book is enough to calm me down. But then I heard it, a strange creak went off the shelf. I stood up and came face to face with the ghost. And this was not just any old ghost. It was a ghost, a cat. The ghost raced towards me, dragging along the set of chains. I began to meow in a scary voice. Meow! I'm old Slice-Paw's ghost. I'm scarier than most. Once you see me, you're toast. Better head for the coast. Meow! I'm old Slice-Paw's ghost. I wanted to run, I wanted to hide, I wanted to squeak for my mommy at the top of my lungs, but I was frozen with fear. Just then I heard another creaking sound, as if by magic the ghost disappeared. Oh, how I wish I was home. Geronimo, quit the hysteresis. I bolted down the hall and flew out the front door. Help! Squeaked into the dark, rainy night. But of course, no one answered. How could they? There wasn't a paw or tail in sight. I was alone. Yes, all alone in the spooky dark forest. Oh, how I wish I was home. I shivered. My whiskers were getting soaked. Now what? Before I could come up with a plan, my cell phone rang. It was working again. It plays classical music. For a minute, I let myself enjoy the scooting sounds of rattling Beethoven. What an amazing concert! Then I remember where I was and what I had just seen in the castle. Poisonous cheese puffs! I shrieked into the phone. Who is it? You've got to help me. It was my sister Thea. Geronimo, where are you? What's going on? She asked calmly. I was back in full panic mode. The castle. Kitchen. That is, the skeleton and the armor too, all because of the fog. And I saw a light at the window, but there's no one here, I stammered. Holy cheese, I'm scared. Come and save me. My sister's died. She is the exact opposite of me. That mouse would stay calm even if she got stuck in a tornado and touched down at the catwalk. Resort, Geronimo. Quit the heretics, she ordered in her no-nonsense voice. Now, tell me exactly where you are. I stared into the dark night. I don't know. I'm somewhere in dark forest, I began. I passed that sack point, but I got lost. Then my car broke down and I found this castle. It's empty, but... My sister snorted. Why are you getting your whiskers in a twist then? She scolded. If you're at a castle, just pick a room and hit the sack. Tomorrow morning, you can find the main road and go home. She's Niblet. You're making a mountain out of a mouse hill sometimes. I peered back at the castle, but I don't want to sleep here, I whined. The castle is empty, too scary, and it's much too dark. Of course, my sister had an answer for everything. She pointed out that I would not need lights since I was going to sleep anyway. Then she called me a fraidy mouse. I was insulted, but I was too afraid to say no. Is there anything there to eat? My sister asked. I told her about the cheese that I had found in the kitchen. That's great. What more do you want? She demanded. You're at a castle and you have cheese. I reminded her about the mouse bone in the kitchen. Not to mention that heinous rat skeleton hanging in the closet. Oh, brother, you've got one active imagination, she scoffed. Bones, skeletons. Or maybe you should have a little chat with Dr. Shrinkfur. I think you're seeing things. I heard the splashing of water. Thea must have been taking her nightly bath. Oh, how I wish I was home in my own bathtub. I could be relaxing in lots of bubbles. I could be playing with my squeaky cheese bath toy. Suddenly, a noise interrupted my happy thought. It was coming from the big hole inside the castle. Listen, Thea, I whispered. You won't believe this, but I've just seen a ghost. My sister coughed. A ghost? You mean a real ghost? She squeaked. Yes, it was a real ghost, I repeated. Thea was silent. I knew she was trying to decide if I was telling the truth. I don't know why my family never believes me. I mean, I am a newspaper mouse. I tell it the way I see it. Listen, Thea. I know a ghost when I see one, I insisted. And this was a real honest to good mouse ghost. I heard a loud splashing sound. Splash! It sounded like my sister was getting out of the tub. Seconds later, she came back on the line. Well, why didn't you tell me about this ghosty guy in the first place? What a cheese brain, she shrieked. Her squeak was ear-splitting. This could be a great ghost scoop. I'm on my way, Thea cried. I'll take pictures. The paper will sell like hot cheesecakes. Bye. She slammed down the receiver. I was left listening to the dial tone. Then I stared at the castle. It reminded me of when I used to go trick-or-treating as a young mouselet. There was one mouse hole on the block that was supposed to be haunted. My cousin Chap would ring the doorbell. Then we'd go all on scampering away. One time, my tail got caught in the front gate. I was never so scared in my whole life. I cried so much. I cried so much my candy got soaking wet. Everyone made fun of me for weeks. It was awful. Just then, I was hit by a sudden thought. Rat-munching rattlesnakes, I shrieked. Today is October 31st. It is the spookiest day of the year, Halloween. Oh, how I wish I was home. Halloween. Dun, dun, dun. I'm going to read until today for today. And I read a lot today this month. And I hope you like all the thick books of Geronimo Stilton, Cat and Mouse and 100 Mouse. Give me a subscribe and give me a thumbs up so I can give you more videos about Geronimo Stilton, Cat and Mouse and 100 House. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good day. Bye.